Is it your turn?
Good afternoon and welcome to AM News Network presents Summary Judgment with Rachel Baird, Ed Peruta, and Matt Tyszkka. We're here every Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us. Please call in if you have any thoughts or comments about what we say today or about what's been going on in the world. I'm an attorney in Harwinton, Connecticut. I'll let Ed introduce himself a little bit, and then Matt. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Go ahead, Matt.
Matt Tyszkka, retired Lieutenant Colonel from Connecticut State Police, attorney and legislative liaison for Connecticut Carry, member of Oath Keepers, NRA, and CCDL, etc., etc.
And I'm Ed Peruta, president of American News and Information Services.
Legal investigator.
Legal investigator for attorney Rachel Baird. Formerly the plaintiff in Peruta v. California, and now an advocate of reciprocity for firearm permits across the United States, and looking for good candidates. And I don't care what anybody says, I still support President Trump.
I do too.
I have a question to start out with. What is going on with North Korea? Has anybody heard about North Korea in the news recently? We were consumed by it for a week or two, and it was used as a stepping stone to attack President Trump relentlessly, and then all of a sudden, the issue just went away. Are we going to be nuclear blasted tomorrow because of Mr. Trump or not?
Rachel, his choice of toilet paper starts a controversy.
Well, what happened in North Korea? Did we win that war? Did we lose it? What's going on?
Fat boy back down.
Okay, yeah, but nobody talks about that.
What? No.
What happened to the big to-do over Donald Trump Jr.'s email exchange? Not email exchange, but
Russia.
Contact with a Russian. What happened to that? Have we heard anything about that?
Well,
it's just one thing after another. This goes away. If it goes away that fast, how big a deal could it have been? It is just onslaught, 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 onslaught. And I got something to say.
14 and a half months from now.
I want to know why, when we had a black president for 8 years, all those Confederate statues, I always do that, statues didn't come down then. Where was Mr. Obama then talking about the Confederate statues and how all those things should come down? He didn't say anything. He stayed silent about it. So now all of a sudden it's a big deal to take them down when President Trump is in the White House. Where were you, President Obama, as those Confederate soldiers stood their ground in statue form down in the South? Where were you? You don't care anything about those statues. All you care about is causing trouble for President Trump. And I'm sick of the hypocrisy. I'm sick of the fact that there are people like Hillary Clinton, people like George Soros, people like Bloomberg, all rich white people who are exploiting and fomenting race wars in this country for the simple reason that they want to bring another white man down. This has nothing to do with black people. It has nothing to do with Hispanics. It has to do with one white group vying for power from another white group, and it's all about the white people, and it has nothing to do with you, and you are being used and abused and exploited as you have been since the beginning of this country. And that's what I have to say. And I have another thing to say. You want to start taking down all the stuff that had to do with the Confederate soldiers, the Civil War, the beginnings of this country where slavery was part of this country. You look right back there. There's a Declaration of the 13 United States of America written by a slaveholder, signed by a slaveholder. I challenge you. You want to get rid of everything?
Burn it.
Burn it. Burn the freaking Declaration of Independence. Constitution of the United States, same thing. Written by slaveholders, all white men. Burn it. Burn the Constitution. Burn the Declaration. Burn the United States of America. It's over. It's done. All because some white people didn't get Hillary Clinton elected like they wanted to. That's what I got to say about this week. I'm disgusted.
And the minorities are nothing but pawns.
Nothing but pawns.
Nothing but pawns.
Nothing but pawns.
People of color are pawns in the 14 and a half month march towards the 2018 midterm elections.
That's right. That's what
I
this
was
is all
listening.
about.
I was listening.
They are willing to let this country burn rather than to accept that they're not in power.
Well, I was listening to an interview done with former Connecticut independent governor Lowell Weicker. And during his interview, he made the statement and said, well, you know, the people are just going to have to respond in the 2018 election. And that was the first person that I heard attach activity in the 2018 election with what's going on right now. And what's going to happen is people are going to stir up unrest in this country to try and convince the country that it would be better to get rid of Donald Trump or replace the Republican or conservative majorities in the House and Senate with Democrats who are going to solve all the problems.
But you know, where, like I say, where does it stop? Because Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, they are nothing but products of slaveholders and a time when slavery was legal and accepted. Get rid of those two things. And when you get rid of those two things, by the way, you're going to get rid of due process. You're going to get rid of equal protection. You're going to get rid of all the other things. And you know what that's going to turn the society into? One of survival. One where might makes right. Those with the biggest guns and those with the biggest power are the ones that are going to rule. And that's what this is heading towards. And those white people that are fomenting this don't give a shit about any of that. All they care about is wanting to be in control again, no matter who it hurts and no matter if they take this country down or not.
And that is why the government has been disarming the public and uparming local law enforcement, which local law enforcement will fall in lockstep with local leaders and state governors. And this is the beginning of what I predicted was going to happen a year ago, saying, I never thought, I knew it would happen, but I didn't think it would happen in my lifetime.
You know what it's like? It's like the Democrats and the Republicans were like a married couple. And as long as, you know, their interests were feeding into each other and they all had their hands in the pie and they were all getting what they wanted, it didn't really matter. Well, then somebody else came into the equation, Donald Trump. He was elected as a Republican. That's when the marriage broke down. Democrat, Republican, no longer getting along. Even the people that used to be Republicans are now backing away, becoming more Democrat, because they can see where their bed is made. And so what the Democrats are saying in this breakup of the Democrat and what used to be the Republican Party is, if I can't have the United States, if I can't have control over the United States, then I don't want the United States to exist. If I can't have the United States, nobody can have the United States. I'd rather go and see it go down in flames. I don't care about it at all. As if I can't get anything out of it, if I can't make money off of it, if my Clinton Foundation can't be part of a presidential office where I was planning to, you know, have all this income coming in and do all these other things, then I want the United States to go down the drain. That's what they're saying, and I'm just so disgusted by it. So disgusted by it.
Well, I don't want to sound like somebody crying wolf in the wilderness, but I will tell you this, and I don't think it's as much as if I can't, it's if we can't. I think that this is all an organized, instigated, putting people in the right places at the right time to cause civil unrest. The government, now, I didn't have a lot of time, so I peeked at CNN and Fox to see what was going on in Boston. And the conservative event, I guess, fizzled because of the reaction of the crowds that came there to oppose it. So fine. Shut them up, make them walk away, take away their right to free speech, assembly, and protest, peaceful protest. You know, this country is in big trouble, bigger than Korea could ever create.
It reminds me. It reminds me of other strategic plans that have occurred over the course of decades. And when I look back on how I grew up, you know, there were the riots, there were the demonstrations, and white people were put in their place basically and told, you're white, you're a racist, this is all your fault, shut the hell up about everything. And if you open your mouth, then you're a racist. And I think by and large, white people learn that. You learn to keep your mouth shut about everything.
Well, they cowered.
Because if you speak about anything, then you are a racist. And so that was so incorporated into people's mindset over the years that now white people, especially middle class, liberal white people, are so afraid of being labeled a racist. Because if you talk about anything like this, you are a racist. If you support Donald Trump now, you are seen as a racist. And nobody wants to be labeled that. And so this is the fear that's been instilled in white people, that you can't talk about anything, because if you do, you'll be labeled a racist. I told you, Ed, that I was watching a show on HBO the other night, and I like this show. I've watched, I think it's on its 3rd season now, and I watched it, you know, all the way into the 3rd season, and I'll still watch it. But it's a show called Insecure, and the main woman in the show is a black woman. I think she's 29. It's about her trials and tribulations in life, her boyfriend, her work, whatever. Some people call it the black Sex in the City. Well, the 4 women, the 4 friends, were sitting there talking one night, and the one woman's a lawyer. She'd accidentally opened up somebody else's check, and it was a guy, a white guy at the firm, who I guess does the same thing as her, and he's making more money. Yeah, that happens. I know that happens. It does happen. Absolutely it happens. So I have no qualms. I don't question that at all, that happens. And then they're sitting there on the couch talking, and the one black friend is an accountant, and she goes, yeah, I try to get the white people back as best I can. Now this is on HBO, and she said, when I do white people's taxes, I make sure I don't get them all the deductions they could get, because they don't deserve it. When I do black people taxes, I make sure they get all the deductions. Well, that's fine and good. You know, you're an accountant, and if people are willing to pay and you're making money and staying in business, I don't know if there are rules of accounting that make that unethical or not. But thank you HBO and Insecure for bringing that out. Because when we watch TV, a lot of what we watch is white people on TV, and we tend to know how they think and, you know, all that. It's good to have these shows with black people on TV to know this is going on, because to tell you the truth, it never entered my mind that if I went to a black accountant, that black accountant could be thinking in their head, because I'm white, she's not going to find all the deductions for me. That never, ever would have entered my mind, and now it has entered my mind. Thank you to this show. And I don't know how many other people have thought of that or not. I never would have thought of that. I never would think of doing that as a professional attorney, treating people different because of their race. It's just, but because this show, because she's a black woman and said it, it's fine apparently. It's
you'll
fine.
never hear about it.
Yeah, it's fine. Now, if a white person said that, oh my God, I can't imagine, you know, the hounds of hell would come down.
But riots.
But maybe we need more things like that. But there has been such a fear instilled in white people of being called racist that white people will put up with most anything at this stage in order to avoid calling a racist. And that's why when I see these statues coming down, And I don't know if I even care or not, to tell you the truth. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, things come and go, right? I mean, how long in this country are we going to name something after something that happened in 1850? I mean, you know, building names change, things change over time. God, I know that. But I want to know why nobody's questioning why Obama didn't see to this. If it's such a big deal that these things are still standing, why Obama didn't do anything about it if it's such a big deal? Nobody ever questions that.
Because they were saving the issue because they'd embarrass him if they had riots.
That's right.
If they did it when he was.
That's right.
Rachel, we had an opportunity to visit the University of South Carolina where Rachel went to college. And they have a huge complex down there called the Strom Thurmond Center. Is that what it's called?
You know, I believe you. I don't remember it, but I believe it exists. Yes, I would
They
believe it
named
exists.
a whole area of the college after Strom Thurmond. Now, Strom Thurmond was a dedicated separatist, a dedicated anti-integration politician. I'm waiting. The Civil War statutes are one thing.
Statutes. I know. We got to get that right.
You're always talking about statutes.
Statute and statutes.
And I think that names are going to start coming off of buildings.
I don't have a problem.
It already
with that.
happened at Yale.
Because to tell you the truth, I have a problem with how some names got onto the buildings to begin with. Like, why did their name get on the building? So yeah. So I don't have. Now, when you look at Hartford Hospital, there's the
Harry Gray
Cancer
Harry
Center.
and Helen Gray.
Now they paid a lot of money. He paid a lot. I think he paid a lot of money in memory of his wife who died of cancer for his name to go on that building. His name should stay on that building because he paid for it. Okay?
He built it.
He built it and he paid for it, and his name should be on that building. And if they take his name off, they should rip the building down. That's my opinion.
Well, how many streets and boulevards or schools have been named after JFK, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X?
Let's
You keep
tear
talking.
those
I'll be
down,
right
too.
back. I got to go into master control for a minute.
Okay, what's
I mean, if
going
you want
on
to
in
be
master
consistent.
control? Is it an emergency?
No.
Well, no, I mean, I don't know, Matt. I think that could be distinguished. You could say that, you know, naming things after Martin Luther King Jr., he's an icon of, you know, the modern day who brought civil rights, which we all agree is the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Brought civil rights, not brought civil rights, but like the Second Amendment made people recognize that there are civil rights, okay, that were being ignored. And he has not been discredited, and his point of views have not been discredited. Like one might say, you know, who's the guy that marched through Atlanta, Sherman?
Yeah, General Sherman.
Yeah, I mean, I think his views have been widely, thrown out, whatever you want to say. That's what I mean. I don't have that. I don't have that much of an issue. Maybe it's, and I'm not saying people that have an issue with it are wrong. I'm just not focused on taking down the statues that much. I'm focused on the way all of a sudden it's become a thing since President Trump is in office, when we had a black president, and if you think it would have been a thing at any point in our history, it would have been then.
Well, the statues and names on things and places are symbolic, obviously. Tearing them down is symbolic. And who's behind tearing them down? These groups, they've been documenting this ever since the Ferguson Black Lives Matter came up, you know, with Soros money. And those people are all from out of the area. They're paid. Some are paid as much as $25 an hour to demonstrate and cause riots. Most of them, as typical, and I saw this in the 60s through the 80s with demonstrations in Connecticut. Most of the crowd is just nonviolent, but you get the agitators in there who will, in some cases, link arms behind the crowd when it starts getting violent, and they will push the crowd in so they're the first ones that get whacked by the cops.
Yep.
And they go on their merry way. So this is all, we had Ku Klux Klan mini riots or whatever in Connecticut. People don't remember maybe the early 80s. And the things going on today are on a larger
I think
scale.
they
but
had a
they're
training camp at Beacon Falls.
They're the same thing. Yeah. Well, they were going out. Well, it was them, and it was the some of the people associated with ISIS, or at the time it was Al Qaeda. They were out practicing in Beacon Falls, but they had. We contained it, and I still remember I was involved in it. Ku Klux Klan says they're going to show up. Sometime on private property, sometime was on.
And you were a state police officer at
Right.
the time.
And
A high-ranking state police officer, I would
Let's
say.
just
well,
clarify what he
not
says.
at the time. I was a
Let's just
sergeant.
clarify when he says he was involved in it. But
Oh
go
no,
ahead.
no, I wasn't involved in it. But the Ku Klux Klan said they're going to appear, and I know we had a heck of a time. We worked with the state's attorneys and the attorney general's office and stuff, and what we did was we said, okay, they've got a right to protest, and the people from New York that came up, they were all from New York basically, and some from Northampton, Mass. They have a right to protest. So what we're going to do is keep them apart, and that worked a couple of times, but then the protesters against the Klan decided that they were going to cache D-cell batteries, chunks of concrete, bricks, and stones and things, and they started breaking windows and throwing things. So then we said, okay, if we're going to have these things, we're going to search all the people coming in. Of course, that was fought by ACLU, but what we did was we got an injunction against, we let the event go on, we protected both sides' rights to free speech and demonstrate, but we shook everybody down to make sure they didn't have any dangerous weapons on them. And consequently, that pretty much stopped all the problems. Everybody had their day. Everybody went home, in one piece and happy. So that's what happened in Connecticut. Now we're seeing the thing on a bigger level going on, like with Charlottesville and a lot of places. And part of me says the institutional knowledge of police departments on how to handle these things is all gone.
Yes.
Because they learned a lot of lessons since the Newark riots in '67. I think there were Detroit, Watts in L.A. And over the years, they refined their tactics on how to, let these things go on, but not let them get too far, and how to resolve them or prevent problems. Mm-hmm. All those people are gone and retired now, and now this is starting up again. And I don't know that the people in charge, either police departments or city officials or whatever, have a concept of maybe how to handle this stuff and prevent a lot of violence.
And I think part of the problem, Matt, is I think a lot of city officials want it to happen, encourage it to happen, because they don't want Trump to be in office. So the more chaos that ensues, the better chance they have in 2018 of a change. So I see at a lot of levels government encouraging chaos because they're anti-Trump.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that, because they're trying to link Trump to the riots, where they refused to link Obama and Eric Holder to the Black Lives Matter riots and the killings of police officers around the country. They wouldn't do that. They refused. But now they're trying to link Trump to, it's his fault they're causing these problems. And it's like, give me a break.
The sun came up on the evening of November 8th, the morning of November 9th, and look what we can see.
Yes.
I have to hand it to you, Ed. You said all along, last winter, in the spring, you said it was going to be a summer to remember, that these things were going to happen this summer, that things were going to explode. And really, it was a quiet summer, but we're getting to a point, it's still summer, and a lot of what you said was going to happen is happening.
Summary judgment.
Ed Peruta, this is Eric in New York. How are you, sir?
Eric, I've been looking at some photographs on Facebook. I hope you got a lot of morning afters. What's that fire engine or fire type scotch or something like that? Cinnamon.
Macallan Scotch, single malt.
Oh,
Fireball.
I want to hear what Eric has to say about what we've been talking about.
First of all, hi Rachel, hi Matt, how are you all? Great American patriots. You guys are fantastic people, most needed right now too.
Back at you, Eric.
Same thing.
hey, Eric, I gotta explain something to you. Are you aware of the
Yes.
fact that we now have a Skype set up in the studio?
Yes.
Okay, because we're going to be
That's great.
we're going to be making a Skype call to a rowing regatta in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, because Dan Lynch, our Southern reporter for the weekend, is down there and he's waiting on Skype. So go ahead.
Yeah. So as soon as the Russian allegations fell apart, the statues miraculously came up.
Well, no, you missed Korea.
What about Korea?
Yeah, that was in there somewhere.
I mean, what? Who won the
nuke?
nuke?
Korea. As soon as that boiled down,
Right.
we were down. Boom. And there's a lot more. They have a lot more of these hot topic issues on deck. They could probably keep the next 3 years filled with these.
They only have to worry about the next 14 and a half months until the November 2018
what
election.
I'm wondering is how come nobody's talking about 160 Applebee's that just shut down? How come nobody's talking about all the Sears in my town are out of business? Right?
And
all these
Kmart's
people
going to follow.
All these people protesting look like they live in their parents' basements. They all have nicer cars than me. I'm just wondering. It's like a weird paradigm, you know. You got all these millennials out there protesting.
Well, I have one suggestion for everybody, and it was a very knowledgeable person who told me this. Buy gold.
Yeah,
Buy gold.
it's going to get ugly.
Oh, no.
It's getting ugly.
You know, Eric, Rachel kind of touched on it. I was saying this right after Trump got elected, and I saw the writing on the wall, and I said, people don't do shit in blizzards. But when the weather's warm and they're outside and they can get to where they want to go, shit's going to happen. Now,
Like on Friday, they reported that Foot Locker, their stock went down 25%. The sales plummeted. All these people protesting look like Foot Locker shoppers to me. Do you get what I'm saying?
yeah, they're not in the stores. But let me just say something while I got you on the
That's
phone.
what I'm saying.
This
I just think that this downshift in the economy, these people should be working. They should be having careers. Maybe there's no careers for them. I don't know. Just look at the protesters. They don't look like they're hungry people.
Okay, Eric. I can't remember. It was the summer of 2001. The major news story, summer of 2001. Do you remember what it was?
No.
Sandra Levy
Sandra.
Oh,
Sandra Levy
Sandra Levy
was an intern for Congressman Conyers out of California. That was on every news cycle, every morning, every afternoon, every night. CNN, Fox, they were all covering it. And
Right.
the World Trade Center blew that story into oblivion, and it never came back.
Right.
What happened? I want to know, are the fucking people in Guam still digging the fallout shelters? Is the governor in Guam still worried about the North Koreans firing missiles towards Guam? Are the Japanese still worried about those missiles traveling over their country through their airspace?
I would think
Where,
not.
if that story was so important
I know.
that it monopolized every news cycle, where is that story now?
Well, because
I
Trump
just
was
feel like these
successful,
schmucks are
so
in
they're
the
not going to
street
give him credit.
protesting, And we're going to have a trade war now with China. All these little things that are in Walmart that are really cheap are about to get really expensive.
Well, now I'm going to say,
I voted for Trump, and I'm happy with what he's doing, but China is taking advantage of us.
I'm probably crossing a line here, but I'm going to say this because this is what's going on. And I gotta phrase this right. All right, I'm sitting in a chair. Somebody's sitting on a couch in my living room, and they go, "I can understand why the Chinese are upset." I said, "What do you mean?" Well, they don't want all of those refugees coming in from North Korea. This is the exact same person that wants to advocate people coming across our southern border as refugees into our country. Now, here's the latest one. You ready? I get a phone call, and they're at the Marine Corps PX, and they want to buy me some Marine Corps stickers so that the Trump sticker cannot come off my pickup truck and Marine Corps stickers can go on the back because that truck may have to be used because of a rear end, the vehicle got rear end. And I went like this, rent a fucking car. you're not taking my bumper sticker off my bumper. And I mean, I got to tell you, the emotions and the level of emotions that I'm dealing with in my own house are beyond compare.
Hey, Eric, do you think that this whole China thing, when you say China's taking advantage of us, do you mean because we're being distracted in this country by all these things that are anti-Trump and he can't pay attention? What did you mean that China's taking advantage of us?
It's a little complicated, but they don't let their currency float. So since the yuan is a closed currency, they can pay their people $3 an hour to produce stuff, and we can't compete with that.
So is there a solution?
There's no way we can compete making solar panels, let's say, in America when they're making it in China for a fifth the price.
Rachel, let me see if I can help.
Well, what's the solution,
Let me see if
I
I can.
get it. I understand.
No. I
The
just.
currency float. They have to let foreign investment buy the currency and invest in their country, but since it's communist, they can't. But we're so addicted to the cheap stuff at Walmart that there's no way we're going to let that happen. And I think that's what's coming now. I mean, we got rid of all our jobs. Hartford is bankrupt next month. They can't pay how are they going to pay their pensioners? It's in the state constitution
Malloy will
that they
take
have to
care
pay
of it.
their pensioners. And then they're going to go to the state of Connecticut for a bailout, which is going to be bankrupt, along with Illinois and Chicago.
Yeah.
We've never had a state bankruptcy in the history of this country, not that I'm aware of. So, I mean, I don't know who's going to bail out
Well, okay.
these cities, and I don't know who's going to bail out these states.
Eric,
But,
I'm gonna let me.
It's all coming now,
Nobody
and nobody's
bail out a
they're talking about statues.
Eric, let me just add a little.
Yeah, we're
let me-
talking about statues and states are going bankrupt.
Let me add.
There's a
Let
priority.
me add an element to this. First, I'm going to start with your China thing. I saw a news magazine piece done on the Harley Owners Group, Hogs,
Yeah.
in
I saw
China.
that.
In order to buy a $20,000 Harley in China, it costs $200,000 for the bike.
Yep.
Wow.
And that is all money that it was brought into our country. We're taxing it coming in the door. You want one of those things from over there? 200 grand. And the country gets a slice of the action. Now,
So that's the answer right there. It's a
Yep.
closed country. It's not open to everything, Rachel. It's just open for them shipping their goods out to us and
Right.
getting our floated dollars. Our dollars compare against the yen and the euro, and their yuan doesn't float with anything. It's their own closed currency. I couldn't go and buy a fistful of yuan as an investment. I could go buy some euros as an investment, so that opens it up. It's just unfair. Trump's right about that, and I think all these people are against him because, well, it's going to hurt their pockets. People vote their pockets. So people who are invested in the military stuff like Halliburton, the military complex, people who are invested in the oil companies and Shell and Exxon, everyone's going to vote their pockets. They see Trump's about to rock the ship. That's the way I see it.
And I read an article after he withdrew from that,
the Pacific Trade, TT.
No, the thing about
NAFTA? No.
climate change.
Oh, yeah,
He
yeah, the
withdrew
French
from thing
Accords,
about
Paris
and I
Accords.
was amazed in reading the article. I had not known this, but it was incremental participation by different countries, and the United States was expected to put all those safeguards in effect immediately, whereas China had years and years to do it. So here we were spending all this money and handicapping ourselves, and China was just going on along its way, knowing it wasn't going to come for years, so they had to do all those things. And I bet when those years came, they weren't going to do it anyway. And once I read that, I thought, who could ever support us being in this organization?
This is the same country that had to cease industrial production for a period of time prior to the Beijing Olympics so the air would be clean enough for the tourists not to get sick.
Yeah, they don't care. They're just steaming ahead, trying to make as much money as they can. They just recently they got included in the basket of currencies with the IMF, so that's a huge thing. So China's currency is actually included in the international bank money. So they write a huge check check to the IMF, and now they're more accepted worldwide. So China's the second largest economy right now. So things are moving fast for China, and this trade war is going to be interesting because we can't survive when they're paying like $3 an hour. It's slave wages. How are we going to compete against them? The two solar companies that make solar panels in the United States, they're done. They're done.
Yeah. Good. Eric, do you see China's economy as a bubble that's going to be heading for a burst at some point?
Well, they have all these ghost cities that are empty, so they definitely built too much. But they don't have the debt that we have. We have $21 trillion in debt.
Yeah, and our debt is mostly with China, isn't it?
China doesn't have as much debt as we do, and I think they have a huge amount of gold and resources that they're not reporting.
Yeah, don't you? Yeah, I think most of our, from what I've heard, most of the U.S. debt is with China, right?
Yeah. I think they're buying less, and they're net sellers of our treasuries now, but they still hold.
Oh yeah.
Don't quote me on it. Maybe $2 trillion of our paper.
But Eric, let's go back. I had one more thing I wanted to say about Hartford and bankruptcy, and then
Right.
you look at the state. There's never been a state bankruptcy. Up until Waterbury and some other cities in the United States, Detroit, I think, it was always my understanding that they would not let a government entity go bankrupt because the solution was always taxation. You always had taxation to raise the money you needed to operate. And,
Right.
that's a yin and a yang type of thing. You overtax
Half
us,
the
you get
buildings in
replaced.
Hartford are owned by the state. They're state buildings. They're not collecting any tax revenue on half the buildings in Hartford.
Yeah.
They're going to be left with a police force the size of a police force for a small suburb.
Yeah, 51% of Hartford, I think, is tax exempt, although the state is supposed to be paying them some kind of fee in lieu of taxes, but it's not the full amount. And Hartford PD apparently has canceled their class, and they're down, 100 guys or something?
So where are they going to get this bailout from? The state, from the feds? The Goldman
No,
Sachs
from us.
just said there's a 50-50 chance
Not from you anymore.
of this budget not
Eric?
passing and the government
Eric?
shutting down. Yeah.
The evening of November 8th, the morning of November 9th, changed the landscape of the United States in this manner. Mayor Began Bronin from Hartford was looking back to his mentor, Daniel Malloy, who was looking towards Hillary Clinton in Washington to solve all of the financial problems at the state and local level with grants and giveaways.
Yeah.
And when Donald Trump won, everybody realized that somebody cut the link to the gravy train. Now,
Right.
they can't, right now, go to the state and say we need, because the state doesn't have it. And they can't go to the federal government and say we want, because they don't have it. And as long as you're going to advocate and support and legally defend sanctuary cities, you may not get any money or that discretionary money. I don't know how the state of Connecticut is still paying its bills for advertising when there's no budget.
I don't know what they're advertising.
There's very few things that have stopped functioning.
Like rest areas on the highways closing at 3:30 in the afternoon? That's a good one.
It's a disaster. It's supposed to raise interest rates. These pension funds need the interest. Everyone needs interest.
Well,
10 years no interest now?
I'll go
Yeah.
back.
10
I'll
years
go.
no interest.
I'll go back.
My grandma would be turning in her grave. She used to teach me how to take a passport savings account and put money in, and you get interest on your money, and that's
How you used to
have
do
a
it.
retirement one day. So maybe that's why all these millennials are just consuming everything, because they were never taught to save. Well, there's been no interest since they're born, since they're of age. What a disaster coming, though. And then how come they didn't raise interest rates all through Obama's presidency, and then Trump gets in, raise interest rates, right? So just Janet Yellen, I think her seat is going to be voted on, her Federal Reserve chairmanship seat, October. I would say she's gone.
Well, I think the whole
Right.
Fed is illegal under the Constitution.
Hey,
Yeah, well, the bankers control the Federal Reserve. They voted themselves a bailout in 2008,
Yes.
right?
so do you
It's a
see?
disaster. I think they're calling this the summer of Humpty Dumpty, that this is the summer it all goes down.
So Eric, do you?
I think there's going to be some other issue, like a 2008 issue, coming right up.
Could be.
Eric, do you see a
And it's going to be
connection?
a state bankruptcy headline.
Eric, do you see?
I mean,
Hey,
isn't that the
Eric.
perfect headline?
Hey, Eric, let me ask you a question. Do you see a connection between all the distractions that are going on in the United States? You know, the Donald Trump Jr. meeting, the North Korean missile, now the statues. Do you see a connection between that and what you talked about, China, you know, free trade, the fact that we're not, you know, people are voting their pocketbook? Do you think there are powers that are against what Donald Trump is trying to do? And do you think that they are fomenting some of these side issues to bring him down? Or do you think those are two separate issues? I know you had said that people are voting their pocket, and that's why Trump it may be on the outs with a lot of people, because if he's, you know, not advocating having all these cheap goods come in, then people don't like that. But that could be something completely separate from the people who don't want him in power because he's taken away from their power. Are the two connected in some way?
Well, you know, when I was thinking about that myself, I mean, who in their right mind would want people flooding into the United States illegally in U-Hauls and living here for free on welfare? Well, maybe it's the people who need the cheap labor.
Or the votes.
Maybe it's the people. You know what I'm saying? I'm always wondering why people would think that way. So why are all these people jumping ship on Trump's, what's that council that just, they all sent them a letter and they all left?
The economic,
Icon?
right. The economic
Right,
council.
they're all jumping ship. First of all, they had no purpose anyway. I don't even think Trump met with them. But I would think that what Trump's about to do is going to hurt their pockets.
Right. Well,
Why else?
Well,
I don't understand. Why else? Why does Mark Zuckerberg, the owner of Facebook, build a wall around his Hawaiian estate, but he doesn't want walls around the United States? I don't know. And why does he want all these people coming in, Mark Zuckerberg, the owner of Facebook? Maybe because cheaper labor for Facebook?
well, it's also
you know,
it's
there's a
also
demand for these tech workers. You know that there's a demand for these tech workers, right? My friend owns a company. He finds these people from India, from China, these genius people, and he has these Facebook places have to pay twice the amount of money to hire these people. If you have open borders, boom, they're here. I feel like all these people vote their pockets.
Well,
and you can always trace it with the money.
Yeah, they all have self-interest, and you know the proof of that is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has always been behind the open borders concept. They want the cheap labor in here for their members.
Right. Yeah, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I mean, when I was that's a bad example, but yes, yeah, I know what you're saying. It's sad, and I think we're going to come to a point very soon, and I think it's going to be with the state bankruptcies.
I'm going to say something. You know, I've got my medical condition, and God only knows if I'll be alive 10 years or 20 years from now. But I remember 20 years ago making certain predictions that are coming true. So let me do one in 2017.
Okay.
Those poor, run-down neighborhoods of our inner cities in 2017 are going to be just as bad, if not worse, in 2027. You know, 10 years from now, there's going to be no change in the poor, economic, depressed areas of our inner cities. It's not going to change. And the unemployment rate is not going to get reduced. The employment rate is not going to go up for people in the inner cities. You know, this country is in trouble. And there are people who are ignoring it.
Ed, they fired all the 40 hours a week so they didn't have to pay medical. So so then all those 40 hours have to pick up 220 hour or 130 in the 10 hour. So all these jobs under Obama, it was just 2 jobs equaling 1.
And now they want to pay them $15 an hour for the 20 hours they work.
Yeah, and well, now they're going to fire all those $15 and automate.
Right.
Yeah.
Pizzas are going to be made by robots.
And when you go to the store, you check out yourself. You know, speaking of Walmart, speaking of Stop
Saw
and
the
Shop.
clip on TV where
Yeah.
your smartphone checks you out into your register as you take it off the shelf. You pay for it. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've
Really?
already got kiosks at some places. Some McDonald's have started kiosks with, you know, like one human maybe to make sure the kiosks are working. That's it.
Well,
So I
Eric,
think this is going to be on Connecticut because that's going to be the first to go. I think end of September, early October. I don't know when's Hartford's budget.
The state doesn't even have a budget, so the towns are all holding off on theirs because they have no idea what chunk of the state
Well, you
budget
know-
they're
well,
going to get.
Hartford's budget was due at the end of June, correct?
Right,
And
July
they don't
1st.
have one.
Well, so
No.
does the state of Connecticut.
Right.
It's due the 1st of June.
Right.
It's
And-
interesting that you guys are basically, Hartford. So it's starting in your city. I think that's amazing. And I think Chicago is going to look at that like, okay, this is how we're going to follow suit. I know the feds know about this. I'm sure in the budget, Trump's budget, I'm sure they're going to have some sort of bailout for these states. What's going to happen? Are they not going to pay the cops and the firefighters in Connecticut? Oh.
Well, I'll tell you.
I really see a war.
Your wife, Rebecca, is a school teacher.
And they get angry if you don't pay them.
And then they get angry if they don't pay them. But in the state of Connecticut, Governor Malloy is going to be robbing from the rich towns to pay to the poor towns to cover educational expenses. And that really is him going after the towns that didn't vote for him in the last election. Because other than the inner city, Daniel Malloy was not elected governor. He got elected because of the votes.
Ask all the unions for concessions, and they're going to say F you.
Well,
They certainly
They're going
will.
to say, well, can't pay you.
listen, Eric, thank you for the
I
call.
can't wait to see what happens. It's going to be unbelievable.
Well, just following up what Ed was saying on this education thing is he's going to give, Ed was right, he wants to give more money to the low-performing towns. Well, my guess would be I would want to give the money to the higher-performing towns, not necessarily rich, but the higher-performing towns as far as efficiency and test scores and whatever. I mean, it's my argument is simplistic, but let's reward the people who are doing the right thing. Why are we going to reward the towns that for years have given poor to no results for education? Let them starve out. Let them starve out. If your school system in your town can't at least come up to an average, you know what? You don't deserve any more money. Either improve the place or go out of business. But we're not going to support a dying cockroach.
And also shifting money in your state from town to town, it's like arguing who's going to pay the bill on the Titanic.
Yeah, right.
It's going down anyway.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
That's a good one, Eric. We got to go.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Thanks for the
Thank
call.
you.
Thanks for calling. Have a good one.
Listen, on the front page of today's paper, it talks about Governor Malloy is going to eliminate education funding for 51 more towns and cities than originally planned, while he continues to set state spending through executive order. It says he released an updated spending plan on Friday that zeroes out educational equalization grants to 85 municipalities now and reduces grants to 54 others. And this is exactly what you're saying, Matt. It says that the cost shifts allow the Malloy administration to maintain last year's funding levels for the Alliance District program that provides targeted investments in Connecticut's 30 lowest performing school systems, including Waterbury, Naugatuck. Let's see what the other lowest perform. Let me see. And and Winchester schools. Winchester? Well, that's weird, huh? Funding. See page 4A. Did I get that right?
Winchester, Winstead.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Winchester's right up there with water. Oh, you know why? Because this is a local paper for the Waterbury area. So they're listing towns in this area. I'm wondering why they would just, pick out those. But yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. He's shifting the money around to go to the lowest performing areas.
Well, now let me just see if I can have an epiphany here.
Of course, a lot of people would say that's what democracy is all about.
No. There's more at play in this. More at play in this. I remember sitting on my back deck 20 years ago with a neighbor who was a New London school teacher. His wife taught in Glastonbury. He taught in New London. They were both teachers. And he started to explain the pitfalls of No Child Left Behind. The beginning, he said, this is the beginning of the end for education. Because if your school doesn't meet a certain level of expectation, you get a voucher or you get to choose where your child will go. You're entitled to coaching, tutoring. You're entitled to tutoring. You're entitled to this. You're entitled to that. Well, Chef V. O'Neill, Horton V. Meskel, No Child Left Behind, all of the programs they've been putting into place, and I'm going to say this because I've said this probably every year once. When I went to school, I remember sitting in 7th grade history class. And I remember because the teacher made me sit right in front of her desk so that she could keep her eye on me.
Familiar.
And looking at the door in my memory banks, there were 5 other seats between me and the door. I was the 6th seat in. And then they hand you out those blue composition books.
Oh, yeah.
The blue books, the workbooks. And they'd say, take 1, pass 5 back. Well, I did learn a little bit of math. 6 times 6 is 36. There were 36 students in my 7th grade history class. Every chair was full. And the teacher had absolute control over the classroom. And if you fucked up, you got a detention. If you screwed up again, you went to the vice principal. If you screwed up again, you got expelled. Now you're your parents' problem. And if your parents, you were out on the street during school hours, there was a truant officer squad that got you. If you're under 16, mandatory, be in school. Why are you not in school? Come with me. And when they take the kid into custody, they call the parent to come get him.
And the parents aren't happy at that.
And the parents are not happy. But now we have to have in-school suspension because parents are working. That's fine. I understand that. And we reduced the class size from, and I remember this one, from 36 to 24. That's a 33% reduction. And we gave every Connecticut teacher a 33% pay raise to bring them onto some standard pay scale. We gave them a teacher's assistant in the classroom.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I went into one of my son's meetings, they said that they don't correct homework anymore. I said, what?
Well,
we don't teach cursive anymore. What?
Oh, yeah.
Now,
Yeah, well,
I'm just the old fart.
Yeah, I have a problem going back in time and comparing the way things used to be to the way they are now. It's like trying to fight the last war. It's like saying, well, in World War II, this is how we did it. Now, why didn't we do it that way in Iraq and Afghanistan? Well, because a lot's changed between World War II and Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Society has changed so much from what you're talking about that you can't treat problems the same way.
Well, then let me ask you this question. If we've given the teachers more money and we've reduced the class size by 33 and we've given them an assistant in the classroom, why hasn't the grade point average of our students gone up?
Well, that's my
That
argument.
was the reason for smaller classrooms.
I think...
well, that's the reason they gave.
That's the reason they stated they had to do it. A teacher needed to be able to have less students so that they could give more time to increase the grade point average of the students. It hasn't increased.
Well, my question is, the ultimate goal of education shouldn't have changed between years ago and now. When I was going to school, I remember we were in Algebra 1, and we had this little book. And I remember looking at it, and the copyright date on it was something like 1920. And I'm talking about in the late 60s. But you know what? The math didn't change.
No.
The book was still good, and the teacher still taught algebra. Now, the result is that you graduated, you knew basic math, English, history, science.
The 5 majors.
Yeah, and you could write and read. So the ultimate goal should still be the same. I could see the techniques being changed a little, but if you're changing the techniques and we're not realizing the goals that we did, there's a disconnect. There's some kind of dissonance.
Well, how
there.
about this analogy? When you are, when you adopt a dog, you can adopt 5 dogs and train them and do the exact same thing with those dogs. But a lot of how that dog will react to what you're doing, even though you're doing the exact same thing with those 5 dogs, will be a factor of where that dog came from, how that dog was treated before it got to you, who its parents were, and all these different things that as a teacher you have absolutely no control over.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with kids. They come from different backgrounds, different things affect them. And in this day and age, I would say that kids are coming from such a diverse background history that it makes it almost impossible to, like you say, just have one way of teaching
Cookie
them
cutter.
and do it cookie
Oh
cutter.
yeah, you
Right,
can't.
now
well,
let
that's I was just going to say the same thing happens in families. You can have 5 kids. They all have the same parents. They're brought up the same way in the same environment, and one kid is
Off the
totally
rails.
off the wall. You know, he's black sheep, he or she, whatever. And so, what reason do you give? Nowadays, and that's one thing that, I mean, you are right in that nowadays the number of 2-family households who are taking interest in the kids, make sure they do their homework after supper and all that, has gone way down.
Right.
And a lot of teachers that I've talked to, you know, and I hope nobody's taking this as our discussion is a slam on teachers, because it's not.
No.
But it's
almost become an impossible job, in
well,
my
the-
opinion.
Yeah,
Teacher doesn't have the authority that they used to have.
Well, they don't have the authority, and the parents don't, see to the kids' education like they used to. More than one teacher has told me. I remember one specific one up in Sheffield, Mass. He said he goes and every year he gets his English class, and he just asks a question. You know, new kids, how many of you had your parents read to you before bed? And it used to be a lot of them, and now it's fewer. Kids raise their hand. So he says, okay, no problem. So he teaches the class, helps everybody out, and the kids, to a person who had the parents take an interest in them, make them do their homework, read to them, teach them how to read and stuff, they always did really well. That's a factor that's totally out of, I don't know, everybody's control probably. You can't make people get married, have kids, and stay together. So there's dynamic societal shifts here.
Or how about, wait, I lost my thought. Go ahead, Ed. What were you going to say?
Well, I need to say this, with
Oh, I know what I was going to say. How about when you have a society where every little thing a teacher does in the classroom, they are subject to being complained about.
Oh, yeah.
Every little thing they do, there's a parent complaint, there's an investigation, there's a finding of an emotional abuse, and so teachers have to deal with this, and the kids in the classroom know that if they make any complaint to their parent about the teacher, the teacher's in hot water. So the teachers do not run the classrooms anymore.
True.
The kids control the teachers.
The inmates are controlling the asylum.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. And so when you take away that power and authority of the teacher to run their classroom, it's over. It's done.
And getting back
What
to
I
the
was gonna-
initial point was, okay, you take that factor that you have little control over a number of parents, the parents' interest in the kids, the parents making complaints, and the kids knowing how to, get at the teacher and keep the teacher under control. How is Daniel Malloy's plan of giving more money to those
It's not going to
schools,
help at all.
how is that going to help?
Yeah. It's not going to help at all.
There
The,
you go.
the problem is not the money.
QED.
Let me see if I can slip this in here.
Okay.
The one big difference, and it's going to be very difficult for society. Society would never be able to swallow this pill. There were classes of students, and there were those that succeeded and those that failed. There were those that could and those that could not. There were those that had the capability and didn't exercise it or didn't rise to their potential. But what used to happen, and I'm sorry, I'm going back in time. If you didn't make it, you were failed and didn't advance to the next level or the next grade. And if you didn't do it the next time, you failed again. And we were teaching the consequence to failure. The consequence of not doing what you were asked to do or instructed to do.
And how to deal with that.
And people did not get that high school diploma. The high school diploma meant something. And that in 8th or 9th grade, certain parents were called into a guidance counselor and said, look, you need to switch gears here, and hairdresser, carpenter, plumber, trade school, learn something with your hands, but everybody wants to have that frickin' statistic. Oh, from our campus, we have 98% of our students going on to college campuses around the country. That was the level that everybody wanted to be measured by.
And I've never understood that.
What percentage
No,
of
me neither.
students went on to be college students? Now, what I'm trying to say is this, is that the accountability is gone. That when you tell a parent, your kid can't come to school for a week, well, there's nobody at home to take care of the kid. Well, tell him he needs some family leave time or something. Take some time off from work. Let me tell you.
How does that help having a child at home for a week? I never understood that out of school suspension.
Well, it used to be a stigma. It's not a stigma
Not
anymore.
so much a stigma. They have in-school suspension now.
Well, now they do it.
Now
yeah.
they send you to a certain
Because
portion.
school is daycare.
That's right.
What did the kid do for the week while they were home during the out of
Everything
school
they wanted,
suspension?
I guess. Well, a lot of
What-
the mothers were home at the time.
Right.
So they could have, made the kid, all right, you're going to study, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. It wasn't, some of them could have been vacation.
Sit and read a
You know-
goddamn book.
I got to tell you, I love this concept where, because the mother was home, that means things were okay and whatever.
Oh, no.
No.
I mean, there, back in the 50s, there were women who were not pleased to be at home,
Oh,
who
no.
drank during the day, who sat at home smoking cigarettes.
I brought Bassie back to Litchfield this morning.
Just because a child is home with the mother doesn't mean life is great. Okay, so this thing, it's an individual thing. With the individual family, and we can't just draw a broad stroke when it comes to making assumptions about that.
But there were
I
some
just think the school has a responsibility to a child, and what good does it do having the child at home? I mean, it should be an in-school suspension. It should be them sitting in some detention room during work.
But let me tell you, for the 5 days that you're not in school, you're not getting those credit points towards your quarterly grade to pass the year. You know, how many suspensions
So
you gonna
let's
have?
take a child who's already, for whatever reason, acting up and maybe not doing what they should, and let's set them behind 5 days in their study, and that'll teach them a lesson. And then when they come back, they have 5 days to catch up. You know, I don't know. I just think it's insanity sending somebody home 5 days and putting them even further behind when obviously they're already having problems.
My son went to school with a kid who was a Jehovah's Witness. He refused to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and he refused to recite the Lord's Prayer, or, you know, to do the praying, okay? And there were a couple of kids in class, in a clique, that all decided to do the same thing. If he can do it, we can do it. Well, I understand that. That's pretty cool. You know, I mean, my son got sent to the office for sticking pencils in the ceiling tiles in the classroom.
Yeah.
You know, seeing if he could stick the pencil to make it stick in the ceiling. And what I said
Well,
to...
I had to pick up my son from junior high or whatever they called it because he was at a water fountain putting his finger on it so the water was spraying everywhere. So I remember I had to go pick him up for that.
And how did you treat him after you picked him up?
No, very, very negatively.
Did you kick his ass? Or are we not going to answer that question? No,
It's
I'm
part
no.
of discipline. I mean, you know, you got to do something.
No. I can remember saying to my son, because of what was going on in school, I said to the teachers, I said, look, I'm kind of around all the time. All you have to do is say to my son, hold on, I'll be right back. I'm going to go call your father. My son will lockstep to whatever you want him to do because he doesn't want me coming to the school. Because I actually threatened my son when he was giving me all the shit about the teachers. I said, okay, here we go. I'm going to go to school with you for a week. I'm going to sit in the desk right next to you. And I'm going to see if I see what you see. Oh, well, they won't do it because you're there. You're not going to go to school with me. Dad, you're going to make me look like a fool. I said, if you've got a serious problem in the school, Mike, I'm going to come in and I'm going to witness it firsthand.
Okay, well, let's not get too much into that. Yeah.
But there's a, you know, to summarize, there are a lot of problems with education that aren't the teacher's fault.
Let's go
It's
back to the
society
issue.
changes.
I mean,
Taxes.
When you
Yeah,
talk
that
about,
was
I mean,
money.
Donald Trump said he just formed a task force on the opioid emergency. When you think about the drug emergency, and I think it is an emergency that's going on in the United States, these are parents of children who are caught up in this. You know, kids are going to school and they have parents who have these kind of problems. So when you talk about sending the child home, I mean, sometimes the best place for the child to be is in school.
I have an idea. I'll be right back.
And I'm a huge advocate of summer school.
I have an idea. I'll be right back.
Well, I know a couple kids that went to that, but I was going to mention something about the. It depends on what you do in detention too, because I know when I went to high school, in grammar school we had nuns.
No, we're not going to do that.
In
Go
grammar
ahead.
school we had nuns, so there was no detention. They just whacked the shit out of you if you cut up. But in high school they had detention. Not that many kids that I know went, but they didn't do anything. They were just held there because school sucked, so they were going to be kept in school. And there was a stigma attached to it. The only kids that actually got expelled, and it was very, very few, was the kids that like really disrupted. They got in a fight, something violent, or they threatened a teacher or something.
Yeah, well, safety issues. That's
Safety issues,
Right.
yeah, but they didn't get suspended because they didn't do the homework.
right.
What I was trying to do, and I was
well,
unsuccessful, and I'm not going to mention names. We have a very active member of Hartford, the city of Hartford, a very active community member in the building.
Oh, did she come?
She's here. And she refuses to come out here and sit on the set because I think that it is unfair, it is inappropriate, and I'll agree with Mayor Began Bronin, for a person like me from Rocky Hill to be talking about what's going on in the city of Hartford. It's because right now we haven't given any money that he asked for, but we're probably going to be giving it in the form of we're not going to get it, he is going to get it. but she is in the building.
Although
it
I
is
have
a
to
she.
tell you that in my own way, I support the city of Hartford because when I go to court there, the way they set up the traffic meters, I always
Now I'll be right back.
I always get a ticket
Now
that I
I'll be
have to
right
pay.
back.
So I
Yeah,
do
so you're
support the
supporting-
city in
yeah.
my own small
Yeah,
way.
literally.
It's $20 to $40 a crack when I have to go there, no doubt about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know what Ed was saying. I don't care, about the city. I care about my town, basically. And surrounding towns or any place I might do business with. I mean, I do care. I want all the towns to do well. But when Bronin went around asking surrounding towns for money,
Thank you very much for reminding
putting
me.
him in,
Thank you very
getting money.
much for reminding me.
But that's the problem, is when it becomes my problem, they make it my problem, then I do have a say in what goes on in
Absolutely.
Hartford, Bridgeport, New Haven.
Absolutely.
If you're not going to, take money out of my pocket or make me bend some way to support something that I really have no other involvement in, well, then I do have a say in it, just like school budgets.
Like when we went to the town meetings that Luke Bronin went to in Wethersfield, in Rocky Hill. We didn't go to the West Hartford one, but we went to another one. I
Whoa.
can't remember the one we went to. But yeah, there was an interest in those meetings because he was going around trying to gain the support of towns in the vicinity of Hartford for Hartford's problems. But at the same time, when we went to meetings, when we went to that one meeting in the Park Street area, in the Parkville area, he was talking about sanctuary cities. So on the one hand, he's
right after the election.
He's saying that we want to support people, who are here illegally. But then he's going and asking. For money. So
And
at that
he was
point, it does
promising
become your concern.
in Parkville, when he was in Parkville, he was promising them the addition or upgrade to their library in Parkville, and now they're closing libraries in Hartford. But whoa.
Wait, before we move on from that, because I know you want to get that, and that's a parking issue. I mean, come on. So it can hold off for a second, okay?
Okay.
But we went to the University of Hartford a couple weeks ago to cover. American News covered this balloon going up.
The test balloon for the eclipse.
So students at the University of Hartford are participating, I guess, in this nationwide thing where they're going to go to Tennessee and put up the balloons so that the camera will take pictures of the eclipse. And so we went to cover it, and we were out in the middle of a field, and it was so hot that day. It was amazingly hot. And I didn't know where to come. I came after you. And so I took a left. I think I went in the back side of the campus through the science side. I took a left. I think it was on Blue Hills Avenue. And those, I don't even know what, they're living spaces on Blue Hills Avenue. Look like something
Third world.
that you would see in a National Geographic special about a third world country that needed aid from, world organizations. I mean, it really did. And I thought, are people living in those places? I mean, every window was barred up. They appear to be, you go in one door and it appeared to be maybe 4 apartments or 4 living spaces. And there were cars parked there, not a lot, but there were cars. And I think people are actually living in those spaces. And they're right next to these beautiful buildings, brand new, built by the University of Hartford. And you can actually look out from those beautiful buildings at the University of Hartford and see these living spaces. And I thought, who in the hell are we to be holding ourselves out like we have any ability to help anybody from anywhere when people in Hartford are living in these spaces?
In other words, how do we help people coming into this country from other places when we can't help our own?
I mean, when you have animals in your house and you can't take care of them and you attempt to bring in more, they don't let you. They prosecute you for cruelty to animals. They say you've got enough you can't take care of. You can't have more. And in fact, the ones you can't take care of, we're going to take away from you. And here we have a mayor who is saying we're going to give sanctuary to people. Why don't you start with giving sanctuary to the people who are already here and living like that? I want to go out and film those pieces of property that I'm talking about and put them on the show, because somebody needs to do a show about that.
It'll be labeled racist.
I don't know who lives there. I didn't see anybody around those places.
We will be labeled racist.
Okay, go on to your parking authority thing.
Now, I have a handicap permit. I have advanced age scoliosis of the spine. I have severe, I guess they're called spine spurs or some shit like that pinches my nerve. I get a shot every 3 months where they put steroids into my back to try and relieve the pain, and I take medication for it. Okay. I have a very serious case of congestive heart failure. And, you know, everybody's worried about me getting close, don't lift this, don't carry that, don't exert yourself, etc. I have a handicap permit. Mm-hmm. And when I go to GA 14 in Hartford, I've always been able to find a parking space, put my handicap sticker up, and I don't have to pay to park.
Right.
Well, this week I walked out of the courthouse to my car, and I said, what, I got a fucking ticket? And here's what it says. Accessible parking permits will no longer equal free metered parking. To reduce abuse of accessible parking spaces, starting on September 1st, 2017, HPA, Hartford Parking Authority, will no longer allow free on-street metered parking for motorists displaying accessible parking permits intended for people with disabilities. In the downtown area, 1 out of 6 cars in a metered space currently displays an accessible parking permit. Now listen to this, indicating there is a significant amount of permit abuse.
Oh, we don't want permit abuse or illegal permit holders.
Can only get it on the signature of a fucking doctor.
We do not want people illegally having handicap permits.
You can only get it with a signature of a doctor.
Right.
Yeah.
That means the doctors are abusing it. This means that those truly in need must overcome the challenge and frustration of not being able to access parking in close proximity to the places they frequent. HPA ensures that our newest technology, parking meters, and our new WoofNerf parking app will provide a useful and convenient means for lawful, accessible parking permit holders to pay for parking. Please visit www.hartfordparking.com for more information.
Now, let me ask you this. Are they still going to have handicap parking places?
No. Let me set it up.
Okay.
When a municipality plans its infrastructure and its roads and its parking and free parking, no parking, limited parking, whatever, they assign, like in a building, a number of handicap parking spaces based on need. And when the city of Hartford painted and signed handicap parking spaces, they had in place, they said, well, we don't have to have a lot of them because anybody with a handicap tag.
See, that's what I'm getting at, Ed. I'm getting at that. At GA14 Lafayette Street, I do not see a lot of spaces that have the handicap signage or display on them.
I believe there's one.
So if they're going to start making people that have handicap signs or plates pay, that one place is always going to be taken. So basically they're taken away. That, you know what they're going to need to do? They're going to need to make more spaces on 101 Lafayette Street, N95 Washington Street, handicap places, because there are not enough. There are not enough.
Well, why don't they just discontinue handicapped stickers, the hang tags, 100%? Make everybody pay for parking.
Well, no,
that's
no,
essentially
no, I
what
got to
you're
tell you
saying.
something.
Well, it is. They don't have
When-
enough, because I believe the ADA requires them to have a certain number of handicap places. I believe it does. Now, do they have to be free? I don't know.
Well, in parking lots, zonings will say you have to have so many percentage of handicapped parking
Right.
space based on the size of the
Right.
lot. I don't know about the streets. Maybe the streets do.
I went.
But to get into a courthouse, don't you have to have a certain number of handicap spaces available?
Well, you've got to have a handicapped accessible building, so where do the handicapped
Do you
people
know
park?
the answers to this, Ed?
To some degree, I do.
Well, can you answer that?
Right. But I'm going to give you the example.
Oh.
This past week, I had 2 doctor's appointments, one in Wethersfield and one in Glastonbury. Both of them were with the Starling physicians, my cardiologist, and I had to have an echocardiogram on my heart to check its output. I went to Wethersfield for the doctor's appointment. It is a medical facility. Zoning knew it was a medical facility. They knew what type of people were going to be coming into a medical facility. There must be 50 fucking handicapped spots
Absolutely.
near the building. I go to Glastonbury, and there must be 20 right in front of the building, handicap assigned. Because you're right. They assess the type of building, they assess the type of traffic, and they assign the number of parking permits. When the city of Hartford did their kiosk program, you got to walk to get to the kiosk.
Yeah.
But
It's
now
terrible.
they're saying they got an app. Put an app. But what if you don't have the money for a smartphone? What if you don't have a smartphone? What if you got a flip phone? You don't have an app. But what I'm saying is this. You're right, because the parking meter guy was coming along and he was giving a ticket to a guy parked in the handicap, $125 ticket, because he didn't have a hanger, he didn't have a plate. Well, he says, "Oh, if you're gonna," I said, "No, buddy, you want to give him a ticket, give him a ticket." And he goes, "I remember you because I put this on your car." I said, "Oh, I'm going to talk about this."
Well, I don't understand what you just said. The guy...
There was a person
but the
parked in
meter
the
guy-
only. There was a person illegally parked in the only handicapped parking spot in front of GA14. The meter guy came and put a $125 ticket on his car.
And the meter guy said to you what?
The meter guy said that he remembered my car had the hanger because I was sitting in it. The hanger wasn't there. He remembered my car putting this on. Okay? And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm going to talk about this." Because we were talking about, I said, "Look, they're going to have to put more," and I know that's above his pay grade, but they're going to have to put more handicap in here. They're going to have to bring the kiosk more closer to the stands.
We need to do, and I am particularly interested in courthouses. I want
Stanford.
I want to do a courthouse analysis in Hartford of each courthouse to determine how many handicap places each one requires, and the city of Hartford needs to change that before they start charging.
Tell the fucking judges to find a parking space on the street and let the handicap park where the judges park and get next to the handicapped access.
Well, I don't think you need to do that, Ed. I get your point, I guess, but they have parking lots.
Stanford?
No, I'm not talking about Stanford
go ahead.
because this has nothing to do with Stanford. I don't know what's going on in Stanford. You don't even pay for parking in Stanford,
don't.
so why are we even talking about that? I'm talking about Hartford.
Right.
They have parking lots near the courthouses where handicapped people could be allowed to park. So they need to do that. In other words, if they're going to start doing this, they need to fix it. They need to fix it so that people have accessibility to those kiosks right there. That you just can't change one component and not change the whole thing. Although, as we know, with our Hartford Parking Authority lawsuit that we brought, they totally put those kiosks in without changing any of the ordinances because, what's an ordinance? It's
They just do what they want.
you just do it. You just do what you want. Yeah.
Well, I wonder what the parking situation is going to be for
I
Litchfield.
asked about that.
Oh, you did?
The
What happened?
the new courthouse in Torrington, from the reports I've heard, is going to have free parking. 180 spaces.
Oh, great.
Free parking. It's going to have a library on the 4th floor, which to me is exciting because you can go there, you can freely park, and go up to the library and do your work. And I think
free.
that, yeah, and that's going to be a great...
Who needs an office anymore?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's going to be a great resource for the community, so I'm very excited about that. And
You
hopefully
could
it
hold
works
office
out.
hours in the library.
Yeah. So the courthouse in Litchfield is closing. August 25th, I think, is its last day. I happened to be there last week for a mediation, and all the judges who are currently assigned to the Litchfield Judicial District had their picture taken in the courtroom upstairs. I guess that's going to be for memories. The last assigned judges to the courthouse. So it's kind of a sentimental time here in Litchfield.
So somebody
County.
was still photographing in the courtroom?
They were, but they probably got permission.
Yeah, but it wasn't during a trial, probably.
Oh, let's talk about that, Ed. Where we traveled to Danbury on Wednesday, Danbury Superior Court on White Street, because a notice had been posted at the Connecticut Judicial website that there was going to be a hearing on somebody wanted to record a trial proceeding, a court proceeding. So I said to myself, we're not involved in this, but I want to go down and watch and see what happens. And I assumed it might be Channel 12 who was trying to record a trial.
Okay.
And when we got there, of course, the hearing had nothing to do with recording a trial. It had to do with a sealing order. But that's just as good. What the heck? Let's watch this hearing on whether a DVD... which allegedly, this is a really serious case, which allegedly has 3 children being abused on it, a DVD. So
By a nanny.
By a nanny. So the issue was, the woman pleaded guilty. Her sentencing is going to be this week, but the judge viewed the videotape with the prosecutor and the defense attorney, as part of the materials he would consider in the sentencing. So the videotape is still in the prosecutor's safe. Doesn't have to be lodged with the court, since the court looked at it and is going to take it into consideration in the sentencing. My answer would be yes to that. I mean,
They agreed
Sounds
to
like
that.
evidence.
yeah. So they kind of at the end had a little kind of get together about that and agreed that if you're going to be looking at it and considering it in a court proceeding, it has to be in the court file. So but. It was Judge Russo, I think that was his name, Russo. I'm not sure. I should have looked it up before the show. I was so impressed.
Yes.
I was so impressed with this judge because he actually read, maybe he knew it already, but he actually went by practice book section 42-49, big A, and followed every procedure in the practice book for putting in place a sealing order, which is quite a production. You have to put notice out to the public. You have to articulate why it overrides the public interest. You have to actually either put a memorandum in the file or a transcript of the proceeding. You have to listen to any public who comes and wants to be heard about it.
Anybody.
And he went by each and every one of those procedures. And I said to Ed, when I see a judge actually go by the law and look at the statute and look at the practice book and follow it, I get chills. I get chills sitting in a courtroom watching that. He actually asked if any member of the public was there, and the editor of the Danbury Times stood up. And you stood up and said you were from American News. And the only mistake we made, and from now on I'm going to do it, is when it's posted on the website, there's an opportunity for you to put in your commentary. And we should have done that, because I've had this on the calendar for months since I saw it. We should have put in that we wanted to be heard. And next time,
Well,
time
okay.
we'll do that.
Let me just correct a small piece of, I think.
Okay.
Okay. I do not think that there was a media request. I think that it was a sealing hearing
Yeah.
because either the defense or the prosecution or both jointly requested that the document be sealed. Now, let me just say this. That tells me that without a media request or without a request from the public, you still have to follow the rules in order to seal anything. Okay?
Because it was noticed on the bulletin board at the courthouse for both a sealing order hearing and a video hearing. And if you read the statute, it does not have to be posted on the judicial website. They do, but it doesn't have to be. As long as it's on the bulletin board, it's okay. Which I think it should be on the judicial. I think it should be required to be on the judicial website.
It's easy.
Who goes checks out bulletin boards?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That means you have to go there.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're absolutely correct. I was impressed. He asked if anybody was in the audience that'd like to be heard. The editor of the Danbury, and they've got a funny name.
Danbury Times.
News Times?
News Times.
Yeah, okay.
The managing editor was there, and I stood up and said I agree with him that we're not here to object to it. We're here to just see what's going on.
Right.
And I have no objection to sealing a document that shows children under 5 years old in a state of undress being abused.
Well, the judge really went into detail.
He went into detail, and I guess there's going to be some very colorful commentary at the sentencing.
Well,
Probably.
I mean, the part where you have to kind of think about it was when Judge Russo was talking about, because of technology now, and because of the immediacy of being able to put things on the internet and to upload them, was part of his concern. But, I mean, you can't argue with his finding in this case. But, on the other hand, I've also heard police officers make that same argument about why their police activity should not be recorded because of the immediacy of the upload to the internet and who has access to it. But, you know, this horse is out of the barn. We have to live with it. Just like I was talking about, teachers have to live with, and as a society we have to live with the way things are now, not like they were in the 50s or 60s. Everybody has to live with technology the way it is now. We can't keep using the old standards and fighting the old wars. And so people just have to get used to it. So I agreed with his finding, but I was concerned about some of his basis for the finding. You know, I think the finding was it's children, case closed.
Right.
Not because of the immediacy of the internet, none of that stuff. Even if the internet wasn't immediate and the pictures didn't get out for a year, it would still be bad.
Yeah.
It was a great decision. We went, we witnessed, we agreed with the judge, we were impressed with the way he handled himself, and it was an issue that was not too controversial.
Well, I got to tell you, if a judge follows the law and follows the practice book and follows the statute and doesn't come out your way, you still have to respect it.
Exactly.
You still respect it.
Exactly.
Now the question is if the judge doesn't follow the rules and doesn't follow the practice book and comes out your way, well, then you kind of like it okay too, right?
Well, you kind of got lucky.
Speaking of courts and rules, we tested before the show our Skype feature. So I'm right now going to try and Skype our southern reporter who is in Oak Ridge, Tennessee at a national-style rowing regatta.
Is he calling in now?
Nope, I'm going to call him.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Well, the way it had it on the website was this. 7/28/17 they put it up. It says, pursuant to subsection G, a practice book section 1-11C, the judicial authority has scheduled a hearing to consider limiting or precluding electronic coverage of the criminal proceeding involving State of Connecticut versus Lydia Kalahanga. The hearing will be held on Wednesday, August 16th. Now, that just talks about electronic coverage. It didn't mention sealing at all. But that's okay, because you're not required to put it on here. Yeah. They did put it on the bulletin board. Okay, go ahead, Ed.
No, I was going to say, the judge did the right thing, obviously, in this case. Now, how hard would it be for all judges to do the same thing? Just
follow the rules.
I hope
go down, check the boxes.
Oh, hold on. Now, you got to turn some volume down, I think. I don't know whether this is going to feed back or not.
Yeah.
Got to turn your camera on, buddy. Can you see us?
It's a nice picture, Dan.
No, I think I may have to turn.
There he is.
There he is.
Dan the man. Reporting live from Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
What's going on?
Live from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, the U.S. Rowing Masters National Championship.
Excellent. How is it going?
Well, the Litchfield women just took the gold
Yay.
Great.
10 minutes ago. And then the Columbia crew that I was with also just took fourth place out of 5 in the final. So no medal, but they did well.
Well, I got to tell you, you're coming in crystal clear here. I can see a little bit of growth on your cheeks.
Huh. Well, you should be looking at the rowers, not me.
Oh, yeah, really. And I see that you've at least put a shirt on for this segment.
Nice scenery down
so
there.
Dan, is the water down there warm?
Hang on a sec. I actually have to run in a sec because I got to go help wrap the boat.
Okay, well,
Well,
What was the question? Is the water warm?
is the water warm?
Well, when you're in a boat, you hope you don't find out it.
But have you found out?
Good
I
point.
haven't found out. I haven't been in the water.
All right, listen, we'll see you when you get
Good
back
luck,
to
Dan.
Connecticut.
Yeah, good luck. Have a good time.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
wow, that was great. We got to do
Well,
that.
that was a good
gotta
experiment.
do
Now
that more
everybody knows
often.
that Skype works. They
Yeah.
can Skype us as well as call
Well,
in.
Oh,
People,
so cool.
people will be able to Skype to us. And I'm looking at Eric in Long Island.
So is
Will be able to
that,
Skype.
are our viewers
Now
still
she's got to
seeing
switch
that?
the camera back to wide.
There we
There
go.
we go. That was great. I enjoyed that so much. I really
Cool.
did.
I wish you had a little
Well,
longer to
it
Yes.
is.
talk to us.
I think I got to turn some volume down someplace, but
Uh-huh.
it is a feature
It is.
that adds to the show, and people will be able to Skype in. And the Skype address on Skype is AM News, AMNEWS, space center. The AM News Center.
A
So,
space or an underscore?
no, just
Just
a
a
plain
space?
space.
Okay.
AM News Center. And you should be able to find us, and you should be able to get in. I have an email address of Skype@amnewsnetwork.com.
I enjoyed that
for
a
this.
lot. That was really cool.
Well, it didn't seem like we were getting feedback either.
Uh-huh.
So it may be where you can talk in real time.
Maybe I just missed Dan. We haven't seen. When did he leave? Wednesday? I think he left Wednesday afternoon. He's been down there a while. It's the National Rowing Championship.
Well, here's what I heard from Dan. He was thinking about changing his flight so he would be down there for the eclipse.
Right, because it's really going to be
He's right
visible
where
there.
it's going to come right over him.
Uh-huh.
Right. And that's Monday, right?
That's Monday.
Yeah. Is it
So-
going to get dark here at all or anything? What's
We
going
get
to
a
happen?
partial up this way. They
Really?
get the full down that belt.
Uh-huh.
There's going to be a crime wave
A crime.
across the country in the nighttime.
No, I don't think so. So, anything else to talk about?
You have a book there.
Well, Ed, do you think
Well,
I should bring up the sections in the book
think
I
you
talked
should, but
about today?
before that happens, there was someone I was speaking to. A local Torrington businessman was looking for financing to expand his business. Because his business deals with firearms, he could not find a lending institution
Wow.
that would lend him any money
Wow.
to expand his business. And I explained to him that there was a federal program or federal policy called Choke Point,
Yep.
where the Obama administration had put pressure on the banks through the Fed
Oh, my
that
God.
if they got involved with taking money from marijuana shops or gun dealers, that they could be prosecuted, money could get seized. They don't do it. Bank of America, for example, wouldn't fund a machine shop that made firearms.
Or
A
silencers.
business that manufactured firearms. They wouldn't finance it. They wouldn't give them any loans. Okay, and that was Operation Choke Point. Fortunately, he was able to find a smaller community area lending institution that was very happy to provide a successful legal business with the funding to expand his operation. But this just came out, and I'll let Matt talk to it.
Let's talk about that. Yeah.
I'm going to let you
I
two
don't know
talk
anything about it.
while I go into master control. You're going to go to the camera. She knows how to do this.
She's got it down to a science. Yeah, the that was Operation Choke Point, and Obama and Eric Holder put that into place through the Treasury Department to put, as Ed said, put pressure on lending institutions not to give loans or finance or even have transactions. They had many gun dealers who had accounts there that they would use in their business, not for loans, just doing business. And they told them, we're closing your account. You cannot do business. So the choke point meant they were choking gun dealers out of business. Now, it wasn't just firearms, but it was the reason they gave for Operation Choke Point was it was targeting the operation involving illegal or fraudulent activity like online gambling or Ponzi schemes. But it also targeted legal businesses that were engaged in lawful commerce, such as tobacco sales, coin dealers, ammunition sales, and firearms sales. So a lot of people got choked out of the business or found it very difficult to find an institution that they could do business with, just like if they have credit card readers there. Well, all of a sudden at Bank of America, you couldn't use Bank of America to, do your business.
Right.
So just this past
And Ed
week,
was saying something about even manufacturers that manufactured guns.
anything to do with firearms. And even if they didn't specifically say firearms, the lenders would get nervous because the Fed was putting pressure on them. They might shut them down. So anything peripheral, there were places.
How about lawyers that represent firearms owners?
I don't know if they've got that far, but well, if you didn't get the notice,
I didn't get the notice. Right.
But yeah. So anyway, just this past week, let's see. Assistant Attorney General Stephen E. Boyd assured the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee that the operation has been terminated and that it will not be undertaken again. So it looks like the department will not discourage the provision of financial services to lawful industries, including businesses engaged in firearms-related activities.
But the damage has been done.
Oh, it's been done. Hopefully it can be undone a little bit. But who's going to suffer is the financial institutions. If you can't do business with a bank and you have a good going concern dealing with gunsmithing, firearm sales, repair, manufacturing, well, those businesses have apparently left a lot of
How about places like Halliburton and Sikorsky and United Technologies and all them? I mean, don't they deal in
government
contractors?
So that it's okay.
And I don't know if they got an exemption, but,
An exemption.
but I don't think any bank that's dealing with Sikorsky aircraft is going to. They'll tell Eric Holder to go pound sand.
They had done a big story about the legal marijuana shops in Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't have any place to put their money. The banks wouldn't let them deposit it. They wouldn't let them deposit the money. And I think that you said, say the NRA has a card where a portion of your purchase goes to support. Oh no, we don't want to issue those cards. Operation Choke Point.
Which is fine if the banks want to do that on their own, but the government should not be, handing out incentives for them not to do that business or threatening them with retaliation if they do the business. The government shouldn't be involved in that.
What do you think of the female legislator in Missouri who advocated the assassination of the President of the United States?
Yes, absolutely.
She tweeted, I hope, blah, 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 that he's assassinated. She took the post down, but somebody screenshot it. And there are now calls for her to resign. The governor is saying she needs to resign. The governor is saying that she ought to be out of office. Now, she said that, she took it down and she apologized and said it was taken out of context. You really have to read it to say that wasn't taken out of context.
What kind of
So
context
what I'm trying to say is this. We
You know what I don't understand? I don't understand when somebody puts something like that up and then apologizes. That's like the worst. That's like the worst of all worlds. If you're going to put it up, stand behind it or don't put it up.
Well,
what a coward! Yeah. What a coward she is to put it up and then no, you put it up.
No,
that's it.
Let me bring it home. There is an individual in the state of Connecticut who is currently incarcerated at the Hartford Correctional Center named Ted Topier for statements that he made in social media. Now, we have a legislator in the state of Missouri who advocated the assassination of the President of the United States. And that person is not under arrest, incarcerated on a $200,000 or whatever bond they initially placed on him. So I have a very big problem with things that are said by politicians that cannot be said by private citizens. Now, I
have a big problem with people being able to say things about some people and get away with it.
Yeah.
But with other people, you can't get away with it.
If that were Obama, that wouldn't fly.
Right.
And this woman legislator from Missouri, okay, who is she? What party?
Democrat.
Pass. You get a pass.
I'm telling you, there's 10 minutes left of this program.
I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot about it.
We're going to probably end it at 5:55. Okay? We're going to end it because I need some space to work with when I put the DVDs together for cable.
Okay. If you need space, we're going to give you space.
Asshole.
Granted.
Everybody needs to give Ed a space, okay?
Okay.
He called you a dirty name on TV.
I know.
All right, listen to what I'm saying.
I've had complaints from viewers
about when you call about my language.
That's right.
About my language.
That's right. And I agree with that.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
And thank you for being a
that's
loyal
okay.
viewer.
What I'm saying is this, is that we, today, on August 19th, 2017, are entering very troubled times for this country. If anyone thinks that they can manipulate a president out of office by scrutinizing every word he says, every decision he makes, every move, every place he goes,
by setting things up,
they are sitting there, and their playbook goes like this, and I'm sure we can keep this up daily for the next 14 and a half months. We can sponsor, because everybody forgets that Bloomberg held a summit/seminar for key people in the media about a year and a half, 2 years ago, to explain to them how to get this into the mainstream media, how to attack as members of the media. Do you remember when Bloomberg had that summit?
I do.
He was explaining exactly how to do it. There is a playbook out there. It is in play. The Obama holdovers, for example, there's some arts council or there's some council. Everybody resigned. But they were all Obama appointees. Goodbye. What the president needs to do is start sending out letters of appointment to everybody who submitted an application to fill the spots that he needs to fill. I will go this far. I will ask my president, keep your mouth shut, keep your fingers off the keyboard, cancel, like you said, your daily briefings, White House briefings.
Oh, and don't go to the Kennedy Center honors.
Do not go to
Who
the Kennedy Center
cares?
because that's going to solicit protest from these people. Because
to work.
That's in their game book.
Get to work and appoint
That's
people.
in their playbook.
Yeah, just start doing things.
Just
don't talk about
be
it.
quiet. You want to go down to your house in Florida? Go. You want to go to your country club in New Jersey? Go. Don't give a shit who complains about it, who does what about it. You want to, you just work inside your bubble. And when it happens, people will know it. When choke point is reversed, people will find out about it. People will talk about it. But I don't care what my president does right now, because I knew the minute he came down that escalator and announced his candidacy that the game was going to change.
Yes.
And the playbook
it was not going to be pretty. We knew it.
The playbook that's in play right now was there all along. Now,
I understand that Hillary Clinton's book is coming out mid-September, and Democrats are worried because it's not going to be consistent with their playbook. She's going to be dredging up all the old bull stuff.
Let me add two more to that. The Schultz matter is coming up.
Ah, what is up?
Hold on a minute. The Hillary book is coming out, and there is going to be a trial of, I believe, Senator Menendez of New Jersey. And he may get impeached from the Senate. And that could set up a lopsided vote in the Senate, because the Senate is tied right now. So, or there's a couple, but what I'm saying to you is this. Our country is entering into troubled times internally and externally. Now, we started the show by Rachel saying, what the hell happened to Korea, the war with Korea?
Did we win or lose?
Did we win or lose? Well, you see, that's ready to come back at any time somebody wants it to come back. When this starts dying down, they'll go back to that.
Yeah, when you need a distraction.
There are going to be some things occurring in this country that I want to be the person who sat here on August 19th, 2017 and said, this country is in for a rude awakening as to those on this side versus those on that side. And it will make the Civil War look like child's play as far as changes in this country.
Well, and you can keep at Donald Trump all you want. You can keep up the onslaught all you want, but the fact remains he didn't get elected because nobody supported him.
Exactly.
Okay? And yeah, you can call everybody that supports him a racist, but at some point, the more you yell racist, the more people become immune to it and don't give a crap anymore if you call them a racist or not.
Well, that's what I was going to say early on when you were talking about that. Those epithets have lost a lot, or if not all of
because everybody's a racist now.
Yeah, everybody's a racist. You expect that if you say, geez, go into the refrigerator and get me a bottle of water. You're a racist. You know, people don't care. They're burned out from hearing it. Has no effect anymore. It makes the people calling other people a racist feel good, but, you know, it has no effect.
Prior to World War II, we had a diminished military. We had an American Nazi Party. We had an American Communist Party. We had the Democrats. We had the Republicans. We had it all. The day that Pearl Harbor got bombed, the Nazi Party realized, well, that the Bundes or whatever they were called.
The Broderbund.
Yeah. They realized that their days were numbered. The communists, I think, started to realize their days were numbered.
Well, they came
or
back.
at least they did. They came back, but they realized that, you know, that's not going to work. At least during the time of war, that was not going to happen. And I'm telling you right now that there is shit swirling in the atmosphere, whether it's the eclipse of the sun or it's rockets going to, because there will be more rockets coming out of North Korea.
It's getting
and
to be
we're done.
5:57.
Put us off. Put us off.
I'm on a semi-vacation the next 2 weeks. I'll still be doing the show, but I got a summer reading book here we'll talk about Monday on the Morning Report. Everybody have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
they
Thanks
just
for
gave it
watching,
to you.
guys.
Okay.
Rachel's going to, oh, never mind.
That was very